We're here.
finally doing it. I'm so excited.
Me too.
We've never done anything like this in this format.
No, and I feel like it's going to be laughing, crying, I am prepared.
I wanted to have you here and to share your story because you're hands down one of the most resilient people that I have in my life. And we've known each other really since I moved to New York. So almost 20 years of friendship. But the thing that I just freaking love about you is not only how raw and real you are, and how can I say this? What's the best way to say this? We both grew up a little rough around the edges, okay?
We've refined ourselves. Over the years.
But what you have overcome, the amount of loss, the amount of challenges as a single mother of 3, and building your own successful business by your freaking self is why I wanted to put you on this platform so that anyone and everyone, especially all the single mothers, single parents out there, can just hold on to this massive ray of hope that I know you're going to give them through just your own strength. And
you're already making me cry. I love you so much. It's just, I feel like our friendship has blossomed. I'm so grateful to still have the connection that we do. And you've been so important in especially these last 5 years of my life. And I don't know that you always know that. You've been so important to my ability to keep going. Watching what you've built is like, we're just going to do this the whole time. You know that. Watching what you've built on your own is so inspiring. It's kept me going. I remember having FaceTimes with you where you would just be like, keep going, keep going. And so I'm just so grateful to you. I count my blessings when I count you as a friend. It's just amazing. And just to continue to watch you evolve walking in here today, I just was like a proud mom where I'm like, oh God, you did this. And I hope every day that you take in this and what you've created. I've shared with you before that even with my business, your use of your voice to support me literally put food on the table for my family. And I could never, and I took it from there, but but you just sharing me, and I don't think you realize how impactful you are sometimes. So I hope that you know that. And I love you.
I love you so much.
We're just going to say that all.
Oh, yeah. No, listen, I think, I have been so fortunate to have so many different types of friends and different circles and things. But as you grow and as you get older, and I think when you have kids, everything changes. Your relationships change. Some blossom, some dissolve. And there's nothing wrong with either one. It's just you realize who you want in your corner. And you've always given me that same energy of support and just lifting me up and being a cheerleader for me. And I just watching what you've also gone through, which I want to bring it back because I think just always knowing how someone grew up and then really taking a deep, hard look at how you've gotten yourself to where you are today is something I'm so attracted to being around people who didn't let that thing get them down.
Yeah.
And use that as fuel.
Yeah.
And that's just we have that relationship.
Yeah. And I think I still remember having conversations with you. I remember specifically where I was when you called me about your skin, because I've also struggled with my skin my whole life. And just, it's kind of represents little things like that, having I had a great parents. I love, and they're no longer here, which I know we will get into, but I'm able to see that now. I wasn't able to see that then. But I didn't have like, I was always well cared for. I don't want to make it seem like I didn't have what I needed. But I think it's moments like that, like even my skin. I remember being on the phone with you and you
I
calling
called
me,
you
and I was
crying.
at a rest stop, like going to my house in the mountains with Colin. And I remember just being like, it doesn't define things that I would say to myself. Cause I recently just had at 40 years old, I was like, oh, I have hormonal acne again. And I went through it. But a lot of those things I had to overcome in terms of like loving myself, caring for myself, and I didn't have that as a child, that support of parents that were like, you can do anything. Like sometimes I think like, damn, what would I have been able to accomplish with that? And it's not to say my parents didn't love me. They just didn't have the resources to give me that type of encouragement and support.
Right.
And I've had to find that my own way and then find that through people, friendships, things like that, help to, but it's tough. It's tough when you come out there, and especially coming from entertainment and modeling and it being about the way that you look and perception and all that stuff. It's like I didn't love myself for a really long time. And skin was like a huge thing for
You struggled with cystic acne too. And
yes.
when I was at like my lowest of low, I believe I was on Accutane is when I called you because I was unwell.
Yeah.
You are actually the person who, like, that conversation hit me so, like, it was honestly just like a life-changing phone call because you were like, you gave it to me in the way that you were like, you need to look yourself in the, did you tell me to read or you can heal your life? That was you.
I think it was, but now that you're saying that, I don't know if it was the other way around, or I think we found it both at the same time. But You Can Heal Your Life has changed my life.
It 1000%
and I know we
changed my life. We do connect on that. But you were like this, like you go, you are one hot woman. You need to own who you are. This does not define your beauty within. And that was right when I started meditating.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, you're right. I've been looking for all of these answers because I called you to tell me what to do.
Yeah, right. Well, because we look outside of ours, like even me, like I could have acne on my face and I just feel different, but nobody really sees it the way that I see it. But it totally tanks my self-esteem, or I allow it and have allowed it to dictate how I view myself. And then a lot of that for me was childhood stuff where I was like, I can't even figure out how to like love myself. I don't even know what that looks like.
When did you realize that?
I'm still realizing, like, it's a process. It's not there. I still go through, I mean, when everything started with my divorce and my parents dying, like it was a really tough time to have to lean into all of that. But I would say as I got into my 30s and had Frankie, I really started to understand how silly it was that I didn't love myself. Like, how could I wake up and I birthed a baby and I'm feeding my baby from my breasts and like I'm an incredible mom and I'm providing and I'm doing all these things, and I sometimes would look in the mirror. I mean, I used to put my makeup on in the dark.
I was just going to say this. No, for years, she would not, and you were like, first of all, the skills, like no mirror.
Yeah.
She wouldn't look in a mirror when she did her makeup.
I still really don't like having sex during the day. Sorry. No.
Why?
No, I do, but I have those moments where it's almost in my nervous system. I've done a lot of work on my nervous system because it's in there. It's ingrained. It's like I look in the mirror and I squint and I'm like, you're hot. Like, what are you doing? And I would be so insecure about it. And I don't know if it's because my dad wasn't really around. I didn't have that male figure to validate me in a way. Of course, I dated like older men my whole life. I had an older boyfriend when I was 16. Just all the classic stuff, like that I wasn't valuing myself, or, cheated on me all the time. I was like, well, I was like, what am I doing? Looking back. And I think it was kind of not having that upbringing that really led me on this journey. But I'm also very grateful to it because I love who I am today. I love the road I've had to travel. I can have gratitude for my parents passing even, which sounds a little funny that I could say I'm grateful that my parents passed away. But it's given me this perspective of what's important in my life, and that why would I waste, even with self-esteem, things like that. It's like, why would I waste my time not enjoying every second I have, not telling people I fucking love you and this is what you mean to me? Like, why are we not doing that?
I know.
It's so wild to me. And it's taken all that for me to really be able to like spread that message, and encourage other people to, even through dysfunctional, I was estranged from my dad for 6 years, before, and then he got sick. We had reconnected before he got sick, and he died of alcohol-related disease, cirrhosis of the liver. And he struggled with alcoholism his whole life, and it really prevented him from being able to love me the way I know he wanted to, which is so important. Like, I never knew that. I thought he just didn't want me, or he just was sick. And we were reconnected before he passed. I was so grateful I was able to spend like a week with him in ICU, taking care of him before he died. I'm so grateful for that time. But it's took me a long time to get there because there's so many resentments. And it's like, as a young girl, you're like, why weren't you there? Why weren't you at my water polo game? Why did you miss this? Like you said, you were going to be there. I spent a lot of my childhood wondering if he was going to show up. And, his death has taught me so much. He annoyed the shit out of me. Like when, because my parents really were dying at the same time, which I know that we're going to talk about. And he would annoy me. And I was like, it was things like he would call me. Like, I remember my mom was sick. And she ended up in the hospital and we thought she was dying. And I rushed to Pittsburgh to go be with her. And then she gets out of the hospital and they, realize she has cancer and all this stuff. And my brother, she was in a nursing home, like being rehabilitated. And my brother called me, he's like, Dad's in ICU. And I was like, holy shit. It was just a lot. But before that, when my mom was kind of before my dad went into ICU, he would call me and he would be like, can I help? Can I take your mom food? And they were divorced since I was 2. And inside of me, I wanted to be like, fuck you. Like, oh, you want to take care of us now? It's such a common thing to have that resentment. And I don't know that I handled it the best in the moment. I definitely was gracious. Like, it's okay, Dad. Like, we've got it. But man, I wish I would have let him do that, and not harbored the resentments, because the truth is, like, he wanted to show up then and it had nothing to do with the past, like nothing. And he used to, I tell this story sometimes, he used to send me like memes on Facebook and they'd be like, I love my daughter. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I remember, like, I'm in a 12-step program. I remember calling my sponsor and being like, fuck this. And she's like, he means it, Anne. Like, if you can get over the fact that he wasn't there in your childhood, like, he means that. And that's his way of like trying to connect with you. And I think it was just so difficult, trying to change the way I viewed what love looked like. Because when you grow up without that love, you look at movies, you look at whatever, and you make it up in your head. Like, it's supposed to look like this. And it's like, well, maybe it looks like my dad sending me a meme on Facebook, and that's all he's capable of right now. And I know. You want to talk?
No, I want you to. Do we have tissues, guys?
I know.
You and these stories that you have shared with me is 1000% what helped me strengthen my relationship with my parents.
And it's like, to me, that's the gift of my parents passing. And it sucks. Like, let me tell you, like, I see grandparents with their kids, and it's like, sometimes it's unbearable because it's like, wow, I'm never going to have that. And I'm so happy for people. It's not that feeling. It's just to be my age and not have parents alive is really quite rare. I think it's can be difficult sometimes, and I hope that my loss gives a gift to other people in that way, because I see you with your dad. Like, it makes me so happy, and I tell you that. I just tell you one thing I struggled with, with my mom, is we never were like we didn't embrace each other. We didn't hug. We didn't do that.
I remember. I loved your mom.
I know you did.
She's so funny.
I know, but like, I thought she was nuts.
I know, and I thought she was just amazing.
Well, now that I'm a single mom, to be honest, it's another, like, I just look up at the sky all the time and I'm like, damn, you aren't crazy. It's hard.
It's hard.
It's real hard. And I have the good fortune of working from home and making the schedule that I want so I can take care of my kids. But I look at parents who work 9 to 5. My mom was a teacher. And I think, how the fuck did you do this? When did you go to the doctor? When did you take yourself to the doctor?
Yeah.
And my mom had us 80%. It was an 80-20. Now it's usually, in most custody, they want 50-50 because it's really the best thing for the kids to be with both parents, which is what I had. And now it's changing a little bit. We're doing some changes to ours because my kid's dad is dealing with some personal things. But I don't know how I thought she was crazy.
I know.
And I regret so much that I didn't have time to say to her, I am so sorry that I was a little bitch.
I know.
Because I used to say horrible. I am a reformed name caller.
Same. I'm in
recovery. I used to just say horrible things.
Same.
And I regret not literally we said all the things. So one of the blessings of my mom, we knew she was terminal for like 2 years. She chose to not accept that. So we didn't publicly talk about that, but I knew she was dying. It made it a little bit more challenging to say the things that I wanted to say to her, because when someone's dying and they're not ready to accept that, you can't be like, so tell me about your child. Like, can I record you telling me about my childhood?
Right.
Or what was this like? Or I just want to remember this. Or like, what do you want to do in your life? Like, you can't say that to someone who thinks that they're going to survive. It's a very difficult thing. And we said a lot of things, like I found ways to, she knew she was dying, but she just didn't want to. She was trying to be optimistic. So it was finding that balance of not being like, Mom, this is the last time you're going to have a chance to take a picture with us. So what, should we take the picture?
Right.
It was hard. And we did as much as we could. But the one thing I regret is I knew when I left her the last time that I wasn't going to come back to see her before she died. I was going through a divorce, and it was just a really not good situation. And I left her, and this is so classic, but she had spilled her yogurt on the floor because she was still trying to do her things herself. And I lost my shit because I had all 3 of the kids with me by myself. She's dying. I'm trying to coordinate like hospice care and all this stuff. And I yelled at her like the last time I saw her. And I said I was sorry before I left, but I regret not embracing her and looking her in the eye and saying thank you. Because she gave me the best that she could. And I think that's so important for us, from anyone coming from what you might call a dysfunctional childhood, or not the childhood you wanted. Like, let's just call it that.
There you go.
Okay. When you come from that, I now can see that she was doing the best that she could.
I know.
My ex-husband did the best he could in our divorce. I did the best I could in my divorce. Like, people really genuinely are just doing the best they can. And if we can find the pieces that are meaningful, the moments, and not look at like, you know, you left me at school that one day when I was 5 and I was traumatized forever and I can't get over it, like, or whatever. You didn't show up for my game, or if you can move past that and just enjoy the moments, it's what life's all about.
That's what you helped me do.
And you do. I love watching your dad.
Me too.
I love him.
It's just-
Because you'd miss all that. And
I
like,
know.
you'd miss all that.
I think, like you said, it's like I think for me, it was like times when I felt, we were so disconnected, hadn't really spoken years, seen each other in years, and you feel like you don't love me. Like you don't love me. You're not prioritizing me. And I think when you're young and your friends are like, you see things, right? It's like your friends are being treated a certain way by their parents. And I'm like
they call and ask how they are. And I'm like, what's that like? What is that like? I don't know.
I don't either.
You know what I mean?
I do now because I've been able.
But that's it.
I know. And I feel like you've just given me like almost a whole new life with my parents.
I love this.
I really mean it.
Well, because when you show up in that way, it enables them. Like if I'm sitting there being like, you didn't do this and you didn't do that, and then you just show up with love and you're like, I'm going to love you right where you are. They can also love you, like me right where I am. I'm not perfect. I know that's a surprise to like a lot of people. Nobody is. But it's like, I had shit too.
Same.
My mom probably wanted to beat my ass as a kid.
Or did. Just kidding.
I definitely got my mouth washed out with soap.
I mean,
I don't think I ever got
times
hit.
were very different. And
oh yeah. But the soap in the mouth for sure was totally an 80s move. And I was like, just really kind of traumatized by that ivory soap. But like they did the best they could. And I see it so clearly now that they're dead. It sounds so weird to say, but it's just given me a gift to live and look and be like, did you see how beautiful those flowers were? Like, I never saw that, Melissa, ever. I never.
like just take in what's around you. I know.
I wasn't able to do that because I was hypervigilant or I was anxious or whatever. Like whatever my isms were, I just couldn't enjoy my life. I felt, and it was me though. Like that's what I had to learn. No one was going to do. I was waiting. Trust me, I looked for a lot of guys that were going to like help with that.
Yes.
And here we are. No, I'm like happy now. But like I spent a lot of time looking outside of myself. And I think that's probably the meditation as well. Like when you just realize like, this is me. Like I have to fill that myself. And it's helped me with my kids even because it's really not it's my responsibility to love them and, not and be there for them. But I also want them to find their own way as well. And like, you love yourself. Like my daughter sometimes self-deprecates and I'm like, no. I'm like, can you say just what do you like about yourself? I just want to like change that. My mom would be like, my skin would be, she's like, we'll just put some makeup on it. Or like, she would just say things that I was like, well, that's not going to fix. It's not making me feel better. Let's look at things that I love but it's helped me with my own kids too, I think, to parent them. I'm like, they'll all be in therapy though. Cause I've overdone it. I'm like, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
But you told me I love him too much.
Well, you're the best mom. Did you know that?
Are you kidding me right now?
It
takes one to know one.
When I came to your house in the Hamptons during my divorce.
During a very rough time for you.
My mom had just passed and just some really difficult, below the belt divorce things. I came to your house in the Hamptons and I remember there's a few things I remember from then, but one was just really seeing you with your kids And I just remember thinking, not that I didn't before, but just you were so natural and you were literally so loving and so relaxed. And I'm not that parent. I'm the like anxious parent. And I just remember thinking like, damn, you're such an amazing mom. It was just so beautiful to see you with your kids. I really want you to have another.
I mean, I'd be knocking on your door, full feedings, help me sleep and my baby sleep.
But like you were just so, it was so effortless. Well, it looked that way.
You caught me on a good weekend. I was trying to really keep the peace because you needed ease. I mean, thank you. That like truly touches my heart. I really try. I try to be like everything that I feel like I needed as a kid. And look, it's like
they're all
my parents had a lot of kids, probably, but it's really hard. It's the hardest thing.
Parenting.
100%. And I lose my shit all the time.
Me too.
And I raise my voice and I say things I wish I didn't say.
Yeah.
And I do things I wish I didn't do. But
every parent does
have so much forgiveness for myself, my behaviors, the way I act in the heat of the moment. And I really communicate it with them.
Yeah, I think making amends. And I think that's something that our parents, like my mom would lose her shit and she would never admit that she was wrong. I'm able to go to my kids and say, I did not handle that well.
Mm-hmm.
I am frustrated. Here's $100 for therapy when you're like 16. I'll make a list of all the things I did to fuck you up to give you like a head start. Because I could have used that. I'm like, can I just have like the cliff notes of like all the things that like, you know, happened that I needed to know about? But I make amends a lot. And not in a way that enables poor behavior, but in a way that owns my poor behavior. Because I react all the time. I get overwhelmed a lot as a single mom. And you don't even have to be a single mom because parenting.
I do all the time. I lose my shit daily.
Yeah. Get in the fucking car.
Just like, I mean, I feel like when they get older, you say more things that you're like, shouldn't have said that. And then they say it back to you and you're like,
don't say that.
You can't,
and I'm
can't
like,
talk like that. And they're like.
But my daughter's so clever too. She doesn't forget anything. She literally will tell me, you said this. Well, I'm like, you're right.
No,
but I think it's like having those honest conversations. I think when we were kids, our parents never let us see their humanity. And I'm a human. I screw up all the time. I'm afraid all the time. And I still do things. And it's like, those are the lessons I'm trying to teach my kids. And I do believe that when we're able to own our behavior, our poor behavior to them and acknowledge it in a way that's age appropriate. Like I really didn't think before I said that. Or sometimes I use that, or, you know, I didn't handle that well. Right. I was angry. It has nothing to do with you. Because it's like other stuff's going on. I get an email, I get a thing, that's annoying me. And then the kids are there and they're asking me for a snack for the 80th time. And I'm just like, listen.
I know.
You're not starving, okay? It can wait. You know, it's just, you just lose it.
You lose it.
Yeah. I got home. I went to New York last week to see Frankie and I are in ads like all over the city.
I know, I have to see them.
And we went to go see them with my 3 kids and my boyfriend, thank God. And I'm very anxious. Like I'm a very anxious mom. I think someone's going to snatch my kid all the time. I think a lot of that stems from my loss is like, I know every parent doesn't want to lose their child, but for me, it feels like sometimes they're all I have. And so I'm like extra anxious. And we got home and like, they probably couldn't tell that I was anxious, but like my boyfriend could. And so we get home and this is just like perfect. Frankie gets up and she's like, had sat on something that was sticky. I fucking lost my shit and it was all over the car seat. And it's like, it's really not important. I was crying. They go in the house. I'm like, Nick, I don't even enjoy this. This isn't fun. You know, I just like lost it. And then I am able to like reel it in. But it's like those little things push me like right over the brink.
But you're so real about it all. That's why I love you. Like, I just cherish you as a human. Like everyone who meets you is like, I love her because you are just saying the truth of like what most of us are all going through. Like we're all doing that.
Yes.
We're all crying. Like Disney, like coming home from Disney for 4 days. Like I'm like, I want to cry. Like I was like, we were in a vortex. Like I say, I'm like, it's the most magical place in the world that literally brings on the most explosive family fights. Like, can we just be honest about that part?
It's just, I think it's important for moms, especially. And we live in this time where like you can't really say anything because someone's going to have an opinion about it. But I think it's really helpful for other moms to hear, or parents in general, that this is hard. I'm doing the same things you are, like, and just to relate in that way, because everyone's going through that. Like, there's no reason, like, sometimes the like Instagram reality, like, I'm just like, okay, like, of course, sometimes my life feels perfect. Like, I have a great life. And then there's this other side. I don't know that I need to like show all that on social media, but I think it's important not to gaslight other parents into thinking like, oh, I don't have bad days. I'm like, I have bad days. Like, I spent many nights on the floor of my bedroom, like sobbing in the last 5 years, just through everything I've been through, thinking I couldn't do it, you know, questioning this, questioning that. How am I going to do this? All those things. Or am I a good mom? Which I think every mom thinks about at times, because, you know, I don't even know what we're supposed to do. But like sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm not supposed to be saying the F word so much. Or, you know, like I sometimes give my kids candy for breakfast because you know what? Like I don't have it in me. I don't.
That's
I'm like,
so honest.
It is. Like sometimes I do not brush my kids' teeth every night and I don't give a shit. I don't care because you know what?
Yeah.
I prioritize bedtime, because if I don't sleep, you want to see like a whole other side of me?
I'm a toothbrushing psycho.
Are you?
Yes.
Are you cringing inside right now that I told you that?
Listen, I don't judge any, like,
Yeah,
I don't,
no.
You don't have someone at home with you helping. You've never had a nanny.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have, and not that our nanny doesn't live with us, but like Noah comes home and helps with the kids at bedtime, which has been something that's completely changed our relationship.
Yeah.
Because I didn't sign up to do it alone, you know? And like, you didn't either.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of all of that, because I think this is the thing that I just want everyone to hear, because knowing what you were going through at the lowest of lows, you started a business.
I did.
But like, how? Why? Like, what was your why behind it?
Yeah.
And like, how did you do it? Because it's been so successful. And I was so proud of you.
I think the why is because I had to take care of my kids. I don't get child support. I think that's more and more common with women being badasses and earning. You don't get child support if you're in a 50-50, or someone, you know, can, but we don't have that situation. So I knew pretty early on when my marriage started to fail that I wasn't going to have financial support. And I knew that modeling and acting, which I had done for 15 years, I wasn't going to be able to do that with 3 kids.
She was on America's Next Top Model, season 3, in the top 4.
I'm a totally different person now.
No, but you were so great on the show. That's where everyone's going to be like, I know her.
Yeah. So I don't, like, I'm really grateful to that too. Just to be here. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here with you if I hadn't done that. But
because we knew each other from the modeling world.
Yeah, I would have never moved to New York.
Right.
Ever. I would have been miserable living in Erie, Pennsylvania. I love Erie, but it's not for me. But I knew I had to do something, and I know I'm like human design. I'm like all like into that now. And I was really good I loved sleeping. Like if my mom were alive, she would just tell you I was that kid that needed 10 hours. Don't even touch my blanket or try to wake me up or I will slit your throat. Like I just could not. And when I was having kids, and I know it's a common fear in parents, like sleep deprivation, like a lot of people, mental health, physical health, emotional health, if you don't sleep. And it's so common in parenthood that people don't sleep. Shouldn't be.
I know.
It won't be. Give me another few years. But I knew I had to do something, and it was the American dream. Like, what are you good at? What do you love? I had a doula that just encouraged. She was like, you need to write a book. And I'm like, I'm not going to write a book because no one's reading a book. I haven't read a book really front to back since I had kids. It's very difficult. And knew my marriage was kind of failing. And I don't think I set out to be like, oh, I have to make money. It was like, I'm just going to do this. And I started, like, literally, I built my business in between my kids' snaps, like in 20-minute increments. Like I remember thinking when I first started, if I could just get a nanny, I could really do this. I had explored like having someone invest in the early days, like just so I could get help with my kids. And I didn't end up doing that. And I look back, like now I'm like, okay, that was like, I really started publicly doing it like, 5 years ago. But before my daughter, I was helping friends and doing all the things and really building that. But when I knew my marriage was failing, I just started. I built like a website. I consulted people for free. I would do whatever. And it's grown. I just look at it sometimes and I don't, because you're in it. You're in the same way. Like I made you today step back and look at your office and just think, do you ever sit here and just think, damn, I'm a G and you should do that more? But I never was able to, like, I can step back now and be like, wow, I am creating this. I'm helping so many people. Like that is the greatest gift to me, that I can like change somebody's life by helping them to sleep so that they don't go into a mental health spiral, or they can go back to work and do what they do best. Like that is a gift to me. And I often say that I built this business, which truly is a dream, while I felt like I was living in a nightmare myself, because my dad had just died. My mom had just died. My aunt passed away, who was like a second mom to me. I was going through a really bad divorce with no support system, like nobody there. I moved out of the city to be, near my ex-husband's family, and I don't have any family there. The only help I have is paid help. And I've met amazing people, but I built this, for anyone that's like thinking of starting something or whatever. Like my kids would take a nap and I would do 20 minutes. Everyone's like, do you have ADHD? I'm like, no, I have children, and that's how I have to work. I work for 20 minutes and then I take care of my kids, and I work for 20 minutes and I take care of my kids.
And I worked at nights.
I worked at night. They would go to sleep. I would work till 11 o'clock at night. And just slowly built it to the point now where I'm like, damn.
And it's an online. So explain,
yes,
just a little bit more about Full Feedings.
Okay. So it's an infant and toddler sleep company, I call it. I have a method that I created because I was like, with Frankie, I was like, this is so easy. Like,
she helped me through Eleanor, by the way. And it really is when you follow it.
I know. You didn't love to follow it.
Well,
when you did it.
Well, no, because I was in remember like how bad I was?
Yeah.
And it 1000% was negatively affecting my mental health.
Yeah.
But when I did,
yes,
it works.
Yeah. And it's how I explain it, it's a way of life. So it's not sleep training. It's not anything that's harsh on a child, which a lot of people it doesn't sit well with. It's a way of life. I created a method, and I predominantly teach that through online programs because parents don't have time. Like a book, I'm like, maybe one day I would write a book about what I've learned, because there's this whole other aspect of like, now I'm like into the science of it, where I'm like, this is biological. Like what I see happening with babies is biological. It's the same thing happening every time. So I created online programs so parents could have access at a very low price point, inspired by Melissa at Health, which I still remember our conversations.
Of course. I was like, do it.
Yes, because for me, everyone, sometimes I get people that are like, you're taking advantage of tired parents, with subscription. I'm like, no, I'm making it affordable for parents who live paycheck to paycheck to be able to give their family that basic human need, who can't afford $500 an hour to privately consult. So I made it into an online program that has videos, it has guides to kind of show them how to meet their baby's needs in the daytime, which is a choice, right? Yeah, you could take a 3-hour nap, but it's going to compromise your baby's feeds, and then they're going to be up at night feeding. So it shows them how to do that in a way that I think is great.
It is.
And it's easy to understand, which is also key, I think, for parents and just the world we live in. Time is our most valuable resource. That's all we have. And if that's the full circle with my parents dying, it's time, that's it. So I wanted to help parents in a way that made it just easy to understand. So they weren't, a lot of the programs out there, I felt were also kind of wanting parents to come back. I post cancellation emails all the time.
I know
It's
you do.
My favorite thing to do, because it's get what you need and then go live your life and enjoy your kids. Because honestly, if I don't know how parents don't sleep.
No, it doesn't.
I might be in jail. If I didn't, it's the truth. I've never hit my children, but I can see when I am very tired, it's very hard for me to focus on being a great mom, focus on my business, focus on my clients, focus on myself. And to me, sleep is the foundation of all well-being. Not just, and that begins with babies, because if they sleep, we sleep.
It's the most important thing. There's nothing more important than sleep.
How did we stay out till 6:00 in the morning? We slept though till 1 though.
Yeah.
So we were getting the sleep. If someone told me I had to stay out till 6:00 in the morning, I would die.
Those were some different days. But
great days.
Since the beginning, since I've known you, you have been sober.
Yes.
For how many years?
It's 20 years. So on my 21st birthday, I had a drink and a shot, and I just turned 41. And I have not had any alcohol since then.
I remember feeling I'm just going to say this because you didn't drink long before there was really a movement around just choosing not to drink, not because you struggled with addiction. It was always this, you just made this choice. But you did say that drinking just didn't serve you.
Yeah.
And I do remember just being out, vividly being out at Noah's table. So funny. Kim, me, you, Kim and I wasted. And just looking at you being how could she even be having fun? No, I'm serious. I thought it a lot during those younger years of our friendship. And now I'm you were the one living.
Living, girl.
And waking up feeling fine. 4.5 years now it's been since I haven't drank.
I love you for that.
Life-changing. Life-changing. But I definitely did not know. I was just how do you do that?
There are times when people start repeating stories, I'm it's time to go. My mom used to always say, because she also struggled a little bit with it, but she would always say...
With drinking?
Yeah. She would always say, you're counting my drinks. And I'm Mom, I don't need to count your drinks to know when you've had too much. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that was the only tough part, was at some point we're on different planes of existence and then I can't really enjoy it. But I certainly loved, people used to think, they'd be Anne was on the table. She was having the time of her life. She must have been so fucked up.
Yeah.
And it was no, she doesn't drink. And I'm grateful that I've always been able to enjoy myself without needing alcohol. It just always made me feel like shit. I've always had stomach issues, which probably is emotional. There's a lot of emotional stuff in that. But that was one of the main reasons that I didn't like it, because it would make me feel really sick. But it's just given, there's no need for it. Really. And I don't judge people who have a drink or two. I also never witnessed a healthy relationship with alcohol in my childhood, which was hard for me because it was one or the other.
Right.
And so I always just stayed away from it because I didn't know. I didn't know if I would have that propensity to, or the compulsion to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just watched it destroy a lot of people's lives, including my dad's. And it's, some people don't agree that it's a disease, but when you see someone who physically cannot stop, knowing what it's doing to them, you do understand that it is a disease, and then anyone who can stop, like, just the most gratitude that you're able to realize that. And there's so many other ways too. I mean, it's also funny too, because alcohol, I feel like, keeps you in this, like, your cortisol. It's like you're just in this spike. So you're never able to, like, feel those feelings when you're, you need the substance to kind of feel that. Or you need the substance to not feel that.
Right.
And that can be very scary, I think. People rag on me about my anxiety all the time. My
Who?
brother, people just, like, in my life, like family, not to call my brother out, but, like, they're like, I have anxiety. But part of that is that I didn't use substances to mask anything I was feeling, like, in those years. So, like, if I was drinking when my dad died, and my mom's battling cancer, and my dad goes into ICU, and my mom's in a nursing home, and my dad dies, and then my mom finds out she's, has months to live, and then she dies, and then my aunt's, and I'm raising 3 kids by myself going through divorce, I would have been off the reservation if I had used any. I didn't take anything. Did smoke a little bit of weed. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, whatever helps.
Yeah. Like I just was, like, to sleep. But that, and now I take, like, CBD, like, things like that, which huge game changer for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know.
You've never abused, like, you're not waking up. And I think when people are leaning on another substance to take the place of another, that's where I think things like marijuana can have negative effects. However, there are people who claim it's healed them through, medicinal marijuana. So
yeah. CBD and tea, I take a little bit. That's actually, like, if I'm anxious, I hate the term takes the edge off because it's such an alcoholic term, but it really just kind of lessens that anxiety. Because sometimes I can't manage it, with everything on my plate. It does kind of catch up with me sometimes where I'm like, okay, I need to, like, reel it back and figure out, like, how to get back to baseline, slowing down, like, things like that I'm not the best meditator. I know that's just, I wish I was.
I mean, listen, you're doing a million things. Okay.
I sit down and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so anxious. My brain. I know that's the purpose of it. I try.
It does. It helps. It definitely has. It does.
Breath work helps me.
Breath work is actually great when you're in a cycle.
Yeah.
Of just feeling that.
Yeah. Exercise, dance, those things are super helpful. And it's finding those things that kind of give you boxing, punching things that you're allowed to punch. Really great form of therapy. It's been hugely beneficial to me. So, like, all those things have been so helpful, even over the years, because there were times, I mean, all my friends were, like, having the time. I'm like, wow. I mean, there's times I think, like, would I have more fun if I, had a drink and, like, let loose a little bit? But I think finding that without it has been, like, amazing.
And you went to AA.
No, I didn't.
You didn't.
I go to Al-Anon. So I have gone to Al-Anon for years, which I'm really not supposed to say publicly, but.
Oh, you're not?
It's an anonymous fellowship. I mean, I am.
You took me.
I did take
to
you.
My first class.
Yeah. It just helps I think when I went to my first meeting, I heard people talk and say things that I'm like, I think that in my head. And I didn't think that I didn't think I could be affected by someone else's drinking in the way that I was. And I still go. It's so helpful for me. It's such a way of life to adopt, staying in my lane, focusing on myself and the things that are, not getting into, like, I don't gossip and get into meddling of other people's things. I really just stay here with love. I used to do it bitchy and, like, passive aggressive. that's been a little bit of an adjustment, But you learn how to like, as I get older, I'm like, I learn how to hone this so that I'm not, it frees me to not be bound by those things that I grew up in, like that held me back for so long from just loving myself and loving life. Like I used to say, I didn't realize for a long time that I had a choice in the morning about how I got to show up.
Mm.
Did not know that, Melissa.
Same.
And now through all this stuff, like I could look at my parents dying as like, woe is me, or I could choose to really memorialize them by living a full life because they would never want me to be like, I mean, I've done my fair share of grieving, but I get to choose how I look at that. And it was such compounded grief that I sometimes would feel like this is happening to me, right? And it's not just my dad, my mom, and my aunt. My grandmother passed away. My dad's twin brother passed away. It's a lot. It's heavy in a 5-year period, divorce, all that stuff. And I chose to put myself into my children. I chose every day. I mean, my business literally like got me out of bed. My children got me out of bed. Because I had a purpose to live for. And I created that. I look back and like, wow, I mean, my clients, I get the nicest emails. Like I have a folder on my desk that's like, having a bad day, read this. Cause it's like the nicest emails from people. And so many of my clients don't understand that they literally got me through one of the hardest times of my life. Like I grew with them. And it's what the world is about to me. And I know you probably feel that with MWH because you found yourself in that. And I found myself in full feedings. And I am like, I could just be on my knees in gratitude for it. Like, I just can't even describe. And it all came about because I had a horrible divorce, because I wasn't going to have money to take care of my kids, because my mom was dying and I couldn't look waiting for her like cancer markers to come back on a Thursday because I was just like, this is whether she's like doing well or this is whether she's dying. And it just gave me something else to focus on that really helped me to evolve myself to this place, being here today.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh,
Honestly, like deeply. And you've been such a teacher for me. You really have. I feel like you always send me these beautiful texts where you're like, no, you do. And you're like, look at what you've done. Like you gave, you've said this before, but it's like, I inspired you to go for it, but these moments of just like taking in everything that you've gone through and just like where you are, it's that choice. It's like that moment in the morning when it all feels so heavy. It feels impossible, but like leaning on and almost like throwing yourself into the things that can give you an ounce of joy. And
it's scary. Like, it's not like, I love that you're also speaking a lot more about like facing fears and doing that because it's not been pretty. I mean, the process is not pretty to get there. And sometimes I think I'm harder on myself because I know what I felt going through it. And there's times like when my daughter had the gummy on the chair where I just lost my shit. And I'm like, I'm not doing a good job. Like I actually said, I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing a good job at this, but I am. Like I'm getting up every day and it's not linear, right? I still have days where I doubt myself or doubt what I'm doing when somebody writes a mean something. Like those things still hurt, especially for me. I deal with kids and I'm like, I'm a mom first. So like some of that stuff can really get in my craw. And it's work though. And that's the process. It's like, no, but you know what? And I see my growth. I see things that would have thrown me for weeks previously that I'm like, you know what? I just like snapped right through that.
I've been having those conversations with Noah so much recently because that's been one thing I've noticed too, is like the ability for something to upset me, but not like rock me to my core
Yes.
anymore and disrupt every single aspect of my life. But when you grow up in a anxious, traumatic home, that's your baseline. And like, that's the energy that you bring into every single situation and scenario, which is how you and I always connected from the get-go.
And
it
not
was
having
like
stability. Like for me, it was
no
always
stability.
Like, yeah, it's like there's no consistency, there's no stability. You can't, like, that was the uneasiness for me, was like things changed and I need, I'm A-type. So I'm like, I just needed to know the system, and then we're doing the system. And if we do something different the next time, like, it was that inconsistency that always kind of led me to that anxious place where I would be like, I don't know. And then I lived in that. Like everything was like that.
Mhm.
But you see your growth, like things happen, and it might not be like, I don't know that it's ever going to go away, right? Like these things that I grew up with, or the character traits, sometimes we call them character defects, that come up, my initial response, that, or, how I want to react, I'm probably always going to think that, I hope that I get enlightened and don't, but I don't know if I will. But it's how I respond, or it's the next action that is what dictates the outcome. No one knows how I feel inside.
Right.
I mean, I used to tell everybody because I'm a big oversharer. It's like, I'm going to tell the guy at the bodega, I'm like, listen, but it's, nobody knows that. Like,
Right.
nobody knows that when I get this thing, I die inside a little bit. No one knows that, because I then say, you know what? Not today, anxiety. We're not doing that. We're going to do something else, and you're going to enjoy your day. And the more I can step into that, the better it is, where I'm not living in that fear.
Or letting it define you in your day.
Yeah.
Like I run super anxious too.
Yeah.
Although I do have some things that have really helped.
Yes.
I'm going to give you some mouth tape because that's been life-changing.
At night.
Yes.
I already sleep with an eye mask. My boyfriend's going to be like, listen, it's new. I'm like, can I just sleep with the eye mask?
No, but it really
No, I'm
helped
going to try
because
it. I'll do it when he's not there.
It's going to help you really calm.
Yeah.
Well, breathe. None of us are breathing. Right. But I'm just so in awe of you as a woman, a mother, an entrepreneur, a friend. You're amazing. You are such a rock in my life, truly. And I feel like we've just gotten stronger together.
I love that.
You've, without a single doubt in my mind, you and Alice, who also dealt with significant loss this year, helped me to see things in my life so differently. And I have never had a more beautiful relationship with my parents. And I just like cherish every second that I have with them. I prioritize time with them. I like go out of my way to just make them a part of my life. And I really have you to thank for that. I really do.
It's such a gift. And I wish that for everyone, even when there are strange things, like just pick up the phone. It's the stubbornness, like people are estranged or they don't want to say the thing. And it's like, when they're gone, that's it. And I keep my parents' memory alive through cardinals. So my children and I see them all over. It's very meaningful to us, and we feel like they're with us. And I believe that. But it's not the same as being able to enjoy a cup of coffee or a meal, like the really basic human things that at the end of the day, like they always say when we're in our deathbed, like no one gives a fuck how much money you have or what you accomplished. You want someone to hold your hand. You want someone to be there for you. And I think it's one of the reasons that I share so frequently. I'm able to say to you how I feel as much as I can without being corny.
No, it cracks you open.
It does, because I'm like, God forbid, what if something happened to me? Or I want you to know that. I want you to know how important you are to me and how meaningful you are to me and how much you've inspired me without even probably really knowing it. There was something, and I didn't share this earlier, but there's something that when I came to your house in the Hamptons that Memorial Day weekend in the midst of a shitty situation in my divorce, and Noah had steak for me. Thank God. Love him for that because you were still plant-based at the time. But it's important to say that you were predominantly plant-based because I will never forget for the rest of my life. I was up searching through emails in the guest room. I hadn't slept. And you came in with a tray with eggs. I'm like, this bitch doesn't even like eggs. And it was such a moment, that human. I will never forget that. I tell people that all the time because everyone's like, what's Melissa like? And I'm like, well, let me just tell you. You had this tray and I hadn't ate. And it was just so meaningful to me that someone cared enough that I ate a meal. God, I will never forget that. I tell so many people that story, and I'm so grateful I get to share that so everybody just knows. I know everyone knows how amazing you are, but truly, that thing that no one would ever know unless I shared was so base level. That's what life's about to me, is being there for our family, our friends, the people that we love. And that has been the gift of my parents dying, that I just am able to. I thank God every day that I can say the things to the people that mean something to me, even if it's a little uncomfortable. So call your parents, tell them you love them, even if it's not the most ideal, or even just a message. Sometimes it just takes, I'm the person that goes to see the my great aunts and my grandmother and the people that are, older, because I know how much it means to them. And I just always think you see what's important when you're faced with loss. I would give anything to just have a meal with my mom or a hug. Anything.
You're so beautiful, honestly. I'm just
I'm right now.
Everyone, is she not the most lovable human being? Everyone is just, you are. And you've just become even more just so beautiful inside and out and pure and just so wise. And
I love you.
I love you so much. Where can everyone find you? Because we're all going to stalk you, and everyone who has a child, you need to go to Full Feedings.
Yes, at Full Feedings is my main, that's my business. That's where I'm at most of the time. But I'm also at Annalena Marks on Instagram. I share my life there, my beautiful kids. But yes, sleep and fullfeedings.com.
Yes.
And I would love to help your family sleep.
You guys, everyone, please go support her. And she also knows her shit and will get you legit. And your kids sleeping. You saved me. Hands down.
Well, that's the thing I think too. It's people are like, how did you get through it? I'm like, sleep. To be honest, it sounds so cliche because that's what I do. But I'm like, if I wasn't sleeping, I don't know how I would have gotten through the last 5 years, truthfully.
No.
And just in general, how do people work and don't sleep? It really pushes me. If my kids are sick and they're not sleeping, I'm like, oh, so I would love, and it's very gentle and loving. There's no crying.
And you get videos of her and she's hilarious on camera.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I'm really funny. I swear and use rap music for baby sleep. It's my favorite. We're making it cool.
It's important.
It's hot. Sleep is hot. Let me just tell you. It's the best.
That was so good. No.
I know.
You were so in the flow.
Sorry. So this is motherhood. And honestly, there's so many moments. And I think every mom probably has moments where they're like, this thing happened. So I was nursing Frankie. She's 4 months old. And I take a solo trip to Canada to do a job with her. My mom met me in Canada. It was a great experience. And then I just probably when I knew my marriage was over because I was driving by myself with my newborn back home. And I had ate a bunch of junk food because when you're nursing, you're starving, right? You're I want to eat everything. So I stopped at a McDonald's parking lot to nurse her, classy, in my car. And all of a sudden, like, I was like, oh no, I have to go to the bathroom like right now. And any mom who's nursed their child and has a hungry baby, I was like, she wasn't done. It was not a full feeding. So I was like, what do I do? So I like unlatched her, covered my boob up, and I went into the McDonald's bathroom to go to the bathroom. And she was like fussing. So I just was like, I have to nurse her while I'm doing this. So I'm literally like going to the bathroom in the McDonald's while my daughter is nursing from me. And I was like, this is like some shit.
Literally.
But every mom has that story.
Like, I mean,
I am not afraid.
She has a setup in her. Can we just talk about the setup in the car? Are we not doing that?
No, we can totally talk about the setup in the car.
Because this is the best.
I 100%. I can't remember what I'm going to say. This. My boyfriend's literally like no, he's going to break up with me. If you've not like shit your pants, like you're lying. Like everyone has had an accident before. I have 100% gone to the bathroom in a plastic bag in my car. Like that has really happened because this is real life. And I think it's very important because I'm like attractive and blah, 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 to share that I have done that multiple times.
What do you think about your Stanley cup?
And, 40 ounces in my Stanley, they go in and they got to go out. And I've definitely also dumped the remnants or the remaining part of my Stanley out of my window and peed in my Stanley in my car because when you got to go, you got to go. Well, sometimes I come in from the city, I come in and I'm stuck in like the Holland Tunnel line. And I'm like, well, where do you go? And then I'm like, please don't let a car like hit me while I'm doing this. I've also 100% peed on the floor of my car thinking it was coming. Sorry.
Okay, we can wrap.
That's a wrap.